This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. It is Thursday, January 24th. I'm Ephraim Graham. The death toll and number of people sick from the coronavirus continues to rise. The U.S. State Department has now issued new travel warnings as we learn about a third possible case here in the U.S. And in China, 35 million people are being quarantined. CBN's Jenna Browder has the latest.
American health officials are monitoring 3 possible new cases of the deadly coronavirus. A student at Texas A&M is self-quarantined in his home after returning from China.
The patient had mild symptoms and was improving, so that's a very good sign.
At LAX, one of 5 U.S. airports screening flyers, another man landing from Mexico is being tested for symptoms. And now a third possible case involving a student at Tennessee Tech. The first confirmed case in the U.S., a man in his 30s, is being monitored in biocontainment isolation outside Seattle.
The immediate risk to the American public is low. However, this situation is evolving quickly, and I do expect more cases in the United States.
In just the last week, the virus has spread to 10 countries, sickening more than 800 people and killing at least 26. Most of those deaths in Wuhan, one of China's biggest traveling hubs. The city is overwhelmed as people there complain about not being able to be screened. This video shows the frantic construction of a new hospital in Wuhan, specifically for coronavirus patients. And a travel ban remains in place there and 9 other nearby cities as health officials try to contain the outbreak. Right now, more than 35 million people are under quarantine. Jenna Browder, CBN News.
President Donald Trump will be the first president to attend the March for Life in person. Franklin Graham is also attending for the first time. The march is today, and the theme is Pro-Life is Pro-Woman. CBN's Paul Strand gives us a preview now from Washington.
The March for Life Expo in Washington is crammed with thousands of participants meeting up and networking before the big march. This year, they face bad news, but good news as well.
Abortion's down to about 800,000 a year. That's half what it used to be. Of course, the bad news is that's still 800,000 babies a year killed.
That's why a candlelight vigil outside the U.S. Supreme Court this week carried such a somber tone. Those there faced and prayed about the pain and harm caused by abortion. Alan Parker represents more than 2,600 women going to the justices, complaining how abortionists fooled and harmed them.
They lied to me. They deceived me. They injured me, talking about the abortion industry.
Janet Morena has counseled thousands of wounded women.
And I could introduce you to people, women, who the only child they were ever able to conceive was that child they aborted because of the damage done to them by that abortion.
Brandy Swindell started up a pro-life health clinic.
When women do have abortions, the majority of them do regret that decision. That's what all the studies show. And many of those women suffer from shame, depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts at times.
Deborah Tilden says she was lied to by those who took her baby 40 years ago.
It's not a baby yet. It's just a blob of tissue. Your life can get back to normal again. My life, and I was never normal, as they would say, that moment I walked out of the abortion clinic.
She's amazed the relationship with her fiancé survived.
80% of couples who have gone through the abortion, especially together, do not survive that.
Then there's the literal taking of life.
Obviously, a baby is killed, and people need to look at abortion. We urge people to go to lookatabortion.org, a special website, because you can't form an opinion about this unless you see it.
Father Pavone says it's time for the Supreme Court to revisit Roe v. Wade because this legalized right to abort America's unborn has so distorted the nation's morality and law.
If a pregnant woman is in a car and her car gets hit by a drunk driver and the baby gets injured or killed, someone can be punished for the harm or death of that baby. But imagine this, she could be in that car driving to an abortion clinic to get that baby aborted, and then it's supposed to be a constitutional right?
This is the 47th March for Life, an event crying for an end to all this. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Vice President Mike Pence, along with more than 40 world leaders, met in Jerusalem Thursday to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. CBN's David Brody traveled to Jerusalem to speak with the Vice President about the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide and why America stands with the modern state of Israel. That was part of the conversation as they stood in the Old City near the Western Wall.
Can you educate folks as to why evangelical Christians have a love for Israel, have a love for the Jewish people?
For Christian believers, we're grounded in the conviction that we're called to bless Israel. The Bible tells us that those who bless her will be blessed and those who curse her will be cursed. And really, since before the American founding, Americans called for the restoration of Israel to the Promised Land. And when Israel was restored in 1948, America was the first nation on earth to recognize the Jewish state of Israel. And we've been with them every step of the way because it's a heart connection. As President Trump said, it's bonds of heart and faith that really connect us. And I think that accounts for why Christians and Jews, tens of millions of Americans, consider Israel, as I do, our most cherished ally.
And you can see more of David Brody's interview with Vice President Mike Pence on the 700 Club and, of course, at CBNNews.com. And the full interview this Sunday on the CBN News Channel on a special edition of Faith Nation on the Freeform channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. More towns and cities around the Taal volcano in the Philippines are on total lockdown, driving tens of thousands of people to flee the evacuation centers. Lucille Toulousan reports Operation Blessing is helping medical teams with their needs and spiritual needs as well, and whole families are coming to Christ.
Super Typhoon Kamuri slammed into the biggest island of Luzon in the Philippines, bringing torrential rains and fierce winds, uprooting trees, knocking down electric posts, and destroying many houses. Ruel Paunil was inside their house when the cyclone winds ripped the roof off their house and swept the rest of it into the flooded rice fields.
I was also swept away with our house in the gushing floodwaters. It is painful to see that everything that my wife and I worked for all disappeared in an instant.
Ruel's wife, Melanie, says she is concerned that they do not have enough food to eat because their crops were also damaged.
My husband does not have work now because all his crops were damaged by the floodwaters. There are days when we only eat rice and soy sauce. I just laugh it out because I don't want my children to feel sad too.
We have accepted what happened. I decided to get the materials that are still useful and patch them together to give shelter for my family.
Typhoon Kamuri also lashed the nearby island of Kapul. Here, 25% of the houses were seriously damaged. Yolanda Magdaraog cannot hold back her tears as she narrates how the typhoon flattened their house.
I was so frightened. I didn't know what to do when the typhoon struck. I was shocked to see our house totally destroyed, and all the merchandise in my convenience store scattered all over the place.
Operation Blessing is loading sacks of rice on this boat to bring to the island of Kapul, where they will be distributing relief goods to around 700 families who have been affected by the typhoon. Operation Blessing brought much-needed food and encouragement to the Paunil family, Yolanda, and thousands of other typhoon victims.
I was really surprised with what Operation Blessing gave us because now we have food to eat and my children can drink milk. Thank you very much. You have reminded us that in the midst of the hardships we face, we can still be happy and celebrate Christmas.
Lucille Toulousan, CBN News, Sorsogon, Philippines.
Nearly 1 million migrants have entered the United States through the southern border in the past 12 months, but the rate is slowing due to a controversial policy called Remain in Mexico. An Associated Press reports found border arrests have fallen 94% since the policy took place back in May. CBN contributing correspondent Chuck Holton is in southern Mexico talking to those who hope the policy and the president who made it will soon be voted out of office.
The town of Tapachula in southern Mexico has always been a main stopover point for the caravans coming north to the United States. As a matter of fact, when I was right here just over a year ago in late 2018, there were just thousands of migrants in this town square here sleeping for the night. There's still a lot of migrants here. Actually, most of the people that you see in this park are Haitians or Cubans or Hondurans, but there's something different now, and that is it's gotten so much more difficult for them to make it to the United States, and that's a direct result of the Trump administration's stay in Mexico policy.
This 26-year-old Honduran was deported from the United States several years ago, but when he tried to return, he got stuck in Mexico.
We haven't had any answers from the immigration. There's no way we could get work. There's no way that we could have like a work permit. So we're basically stuck with no money, no information whatsoever of what's going on with our paperwork, and we're just signing and waiting.
See, the Trump administration has put the burden of the migrant crisis back onto Mexico. And what that means is that Mexico is taking a much stronger stand against illegal migration.
It has stopped them. The Mexican policies are not as easy now. It's getting harder for them to get have the visa for traveling through Mexico.
This little fishing village on the Pacific coast of Mexico is called Barrio de San Jose, and it's, according to the Mexican Federal Police, one of the places where migrants are getting in these ponga boats behind me and trying to get around the roadblocks so that they can make it illegally into the United States. But that's had some very negative consequences. Just a few months ago, several African migrants washed up dead on the shore north of here, and it just goes to show the lengths that these migrants are willing to go to try to make it to the United States.
The answer to migration, there's no answer. It's a phenomenon through the whole world. They're just running out of their countries because there's nothing for them there.
Now we're hearing that there's another caravan starting back in Honduras that may be here in Tapachula in the next several days. And the rumor on the street is that it may be made up of many of those who were deported from the first caravan in 2018.
My idea is to go to Tijuana, and in Tijuana I'm going to go ahead and try to make a living until Trump leaves the office. Once he leaves the office, hopefully everything is going to go back to normal, or the situation is going to get better for immigration laws, and we're going to go ahead and try to get up there.
I'm Chuck Holden for CBN News in Tapachula, Mexico.
Coming up, keeping your children from becoming victims of today's culture and building a faith that would hold throughout their lives. We're going to explore that when we come back.
Before you marry is a bad idea. Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch the Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
We live in a culture that can become toxic, poison our young people, and draw them away from the church. Studies show 59% of millennials raised in a church have already left. Our Charlene Aaron takes a look at how some believe that trend can be turned around.
The moral and spiritual decline in today's culture is on the rise,
especially among young people who don't have a biblical foundation and are searching for meaning in life. Examples of the toxic culture abound, from the growing gender identity crisis to the lure of drugs, porn, and social media addiction.
The pressure of sex and drinking, so many things they are being bombarded with.
Pastor Brian Carter of Concord Church in Dallas says the fight for America's young people has never been greater.
It becomes incredibly important for parents and mentors and churches to stay heavily involved to give those young people safe places, models, healthy outlets, a place to process all they're dealing with.
Studies consistently show the number of millennials in church decreasing. Barna Research recently found that 59% of millennials raised in church have already left. It's a trend Pastor Carter and others hope to change.
Yeah, the recent studies about millennials and Gen Z are a bit alarming because they do indicate it's the most unchurched generation. You have a generation of young people that are basically raising themselves and discovering their own spiritual identities.
That's why Carter and his congregation focus on helping youth relate to Scripture and even let them take the lead from time to time.
Psalms 86:11 says, "Teach me your ways, O Lord, that I may live according to your truth. Grant me purity of heart so I may honor you." God plays so many roles in our lives. And to me, this scripture advises us to look to God as a teacher and a mentor.
They want people to be involved, to coach them. It's crucial that churches begin to re-examine, how do I disciple this generation well? How do I help them to cultivate a love for God and a love for people? How do I help them to have their spiritual identity solid so that they don't run around and try to find their identity from something else?
Earlier this year, CBN News reported on a camp that does just that.
Youth are spiritually hungry. I mean, they really, really are.
Alex McFarland of Truth for a New Generation says parents and the church community must be ready to answer the tough questions young people have about religion.
Does truth exist? Does God exist? How can we know God exists? What about the Bible? Is the Bible true and trustworthy? What about Jesus?
Miki and Will Addison host a radio show called Airing the Addisons. They admit raising kids to love God can seem like an uphill battle, but say there is hope.
I often go, wait a minute, Gen Zers, these people are still eating at your table. You haven't lost them yet.
Even in their schools, you'll see where they have teachers, in colleges, universities, that are against what we believe, and they will be really bold about it. And I think our kids have to be equipped to withstand that, and not crumble under it.
This high school senior attended the camp for 2 years.
Especially in a public school, people around you aren't always the most Christian-like.
Meanwhile, church leaders are hopeful about the next generation as they seek to lead them in the way.
They are bold. They are courageous. They just need to be armed with the truth. They want to be a light in darkness, but we need to make sure that we pass on that light to them.
Over time, I think we'll be surprised by how this next generation takes this faith, uses technology, and reaches people that we never could reach before.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Still ahead, the countdown to the Super Bowl is on. Sean Brown joins us next with all the hype and preparation. Stay with us.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regents award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back. It is one of the most watched things on television all year long. And of course, I'm talking about the Super Bowl. Naturally, there's excitement building even more than a week out. Sean Brown joins us now with all the talk. So, of course, we know it's the 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
What are both teams doing this weekend?
They're arriving.
Nice.
Good morning, Ephraim. Hey, man, you know, this is my favorite event. Yes, it is highly anticipated, a lot of excitement, and for good reason, man. It's a big event. The players will probably arrive on Sunday. No media access. All there is just photo ops. You know, cameramen are going to be taking photos, take video, just them getting off the plane. You know, some people looking at what they're wearing, those kinds of things. But there will be no media access until Monday, opening night. Maybe one or two pressers, I guess, with local media, you know, as they're arriving. But they're going to just lay low, man, for the first day. Take it easy, take it in. We're here. And up until opening night, which happens Monday night at 7. So it's exciting. You know, they need that time to prepare because there's going to be a busy week for these guys.
Busy week and a big game. What can we expect?
Well, opening night, you want to watch opening night. I think it's televised, it's live. There's live music. There's fans. There's celebrities from everywhere coming for each team. Each team gets about 45 minutes. Of course, you know, we'll be there. Trying to track down the guys whose faith is everything to them, and just be in the midst of the excitement. It's just a busy week for them. You're going to see them on television all week long on different shows, different pressers. It is just, they have a whole lot of things they have to do and squeeze in time to practice. But the most disciplined teams, they try to stay out of it, man. They do exactly what they have to do. They go back to the hotel room. They go out to eat. They go back because there's so many distractions that happen throughout the week, and they really need to focus on what they need to do. And so you're going to see pressers. You're going to see it in their eyes, their excitement, but at the same time answering questions, you know, just trying to really keep their mind on what they're going to have to do come Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, and of course, they're going to need some rest, too, to get ready for that big game. What can you share about the faith of some of these players?
Well, what's interesting is, you know, up until this point, you know, I'm digging and researching, you know, believers on both teams. You know, of course, 49ers have got Emmanuel Sanders, Jordan Matthews, backup quarterback C.J. Beathard, Kansas City Chiefs. What's interesting about them, I mentioned earlier in the week, is that CEO Clark Hunt is a believer, man, which is exciting because they've partnered with, I don't know if you've ever been to Kansas City, but the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, their head office is actually right across the street from Arrowhead. And so they've formed a partnership. And all season long, they have been, actually for a couple of years now, they've been having chapel services before every home game at 12 o'clock, you know. And so that's pretty interesting. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is a solid believer. So I'm going to be digging, probing to find out the real heart behind a lot of these guys and how they stay focused. And it is their faith in Christ, man. So I'm going to bring that to you. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, we know you're a journalist and you're going to be covering it. So I have to ask, though, 49ers Chiefs, are you going to make a call?
You know what? I'm sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs on this. You know what? I want to see how the 49ers defense is going to try to stop these guys. They have a lot of weapons. I want to know how they're going to be able to stop, keep Mahomes at bay, while also making sure that they're not giving up the big play. Their defense is strong. 49ers defense is strong. But Kansas City has a lot of weapons, man. I think you're not going to stop them, even if they're behind. You got to play them for 60 minutes. For 60 minutes, you have to play them. You can't wait till it gets to the fourth quarter, man. So bring your popcorn, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a show, and I can't wait to see it.
Every quarter counts. What can we expect this weekend on Going Distance?
Interesting. We're doing a show. I had a chance to hook up with a guy named Mark Ricken for Britches Bespoke. We're going to talk clothes, man. Fashion.
Okay.
He has outfitted ESPN's Monday Night Football crew, Joe Tessitore, John Perry, and Booger McFarland. And so we're going to talk about what went into that, and then we're going to follow up with another piece just to go in depth about men's fashion and why it's kind of on a downward spiral and how we can bring it back.
All right, let's do that for sure. Thanks a lot. You, of course, can catch Going the Distance this weekend at 6:30 Saturday night and 7:30 Sunday night. And, of course, that is on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, an incredible story of kindness you won't want to miss. What a Good Samaritan did for a pizza delivery driver whose vehicle was stolen. Stay with us.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
A Good Samaritan in Port Huron, Michigan took action by following a reckless driver in a stolen vehicle and ended up donating his own vehicle to the victim. In a matter of minutes, a woman with mental health issues stole a pizza delivery driver's car. Media, he was driving home and noticed the reckless driver. He said he called police and followed the car, and the woman crashed soon after. Raiden Jones, the pizza delivery guy, says he was devastated when he learned his car was totaled. He said he burst into tears when Linda gave him a minivan that he'd originally planned to sell. Amazing. You can see more of this story, of course, at cbnnews.com. Time for your Friday Faithful, and today I leave you with this thought as we wrap the work week. Persistent prayer is preparation for everything. It brings you the power to plow through any obstacle, and most importantly, persistent prayer keeps you in the presence of the Almighty. With that word, make today a fabulous Friday, and be sure to have a wonderful weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you right back here come Monday. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.